Welcome to It Comes In Pints, a Seattle Study Club podcast where we will explore a myriad of topics: clinical, health and well-being, psychological, education, business, and much more. I'm your host, Greg Tice.
Hi there, my name is Colin Maclachlan, and these days I am an actor, author, motivational speaker, and during COVID, a professional hitman. Maybe not the last bit.
So I'd like to welcome everyone to the latest episode of It Comes In Pints, a Seattle Study Club podcast with your host, me, Greg Tice. Joining us today is Colin Maclachlan. Let's start this again. Pronounce your last name just so I don't butcher it.
I've got no idea how you say it. I think I say Maclachlan because it's easier. I think if you're in Scotland and you're with your clan, you would have to say Maclachlan, but that makes it sound like I've got ginger hair coming out my eyes.
Yeah,
so
really. Maclachlan. Okay, so that's how we'll do it with Colin Maclachlan, who was actually a keynote at the Seattle Study Club Symposium last year in 2025 and received, crazily enough, I say facetiously, the only standing ovation of the entire conference. So I want to welcome Colin Maclachlan to the podcast. We're going to go into your background a little bit, but you are a former SAS, and for those that don't know, a lot of us in North America, but for those that don't know, what is SAS? What is the SAS?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and depending whether I'm undercover or not, it might be the Scottish Ambulance Service or Scandinavian Airlines, but by day and by night, normally I was in the Special Air Service, which is it's probably our equivalent of a hybrid between Delta Force and SEAL Team 6. So our roles are kind of hybrid with those two units, and we're a very small special forces unit, but between us and the SBS, the kind of only special forces units in the UK at that sort of tier 1 level.
Got it. So in essence, a cross between Delta and SEAL, but a special forces, small special forces unit.
Yeah.
Great. So this, as you know, we call it It Comes In Pints because I am hoping this is really like you and I sitting in a pub having a drink. In order to do that, we actually have to have a drink. So what have you brought to drink this afternoon?
Well, thanks for asking. Great. And so what I've got a little French number. This is a little red wine, a Chateauneuf du Pape. I've brought reserves because we never like to run out of ammunition when we're on a job. So that's what I've got, and I know if Dr. John Wallace is looking on from Dallas, Texas, he'll be looking on and nodding in approval because I know he has a few bottles of those in his collection.
He does, and we'll make sure he brings them to Symposium. So it is a little earlier for me than it is for you, so I'm not going to go with red wine today, but I am having a little coffee in my Seattle Study Club mug with your favorite alcohol, Bailey's Irish Cream.
Ah, gentlemen. I love it. There's stories I could tell about infamous barbecues with Gary and Kirsty and many bottles of Bailey's sunk, but that's for another time.
That is, if you want to hear that story, there is a story behind it, which I've heard. Cheers, my friend. You have to come to Symposium to hear that story because he'll tell it there. So.
And just that story alone will be worth a standing ovation. I didn't actually know I was the only person that got a standing ovation. They were probably scared in case I had my laser with me or their seats were rigged or something.
It's entirely possible. So you actually got a very interesting path, I think, in getting to the SAS. Can you briefly tell us a little bit about that story now? And I'm saying briefly because here's the shameless plug part. This is outlined in detail in your book just released, The Pilgrim, which we will put on screen. Oh, and you've got it right there too, even better. Phenomenal read. And I know there's more detail there, but for those listening right now, just give us a brief, how did you move from childhood into the SAS?
Yeah, it's probably one of those parts of the story people aren't expecting because I open up the book and I talk about being locked in a room, battered quite badly, fractured right eye socket, couldn't see out my right eye. Meals were kind of brought in on trays for the first few days. And that's the opening pages, and people assume that's from like some military hostage type thing. And
Yeah.
actually, I'm describing my life as a kid, as a 13, 14-year-old young boy. And so my childhood was quite a troubled childhood, not probably a normal childhood. But I always talk about it in terms of we don't we make everything around us normal. For me, it was normal. I didn't have any other kids my age in that street, so that was my normal. So I was able to suffer and endure from quite a young age, and that kind of helped me for much later on in life when for a lot of people it was suffering and enduring. For me, it was okay. So, getting into the military and getting into special forces and going through interrogation phases and eventually being a hostage, those were levels that I was comfortable with. It wasn't taking me outside of my comfort zone, and it stood me in good stead much later on.
Something you got used to, in essence.
Yeah, and I think it's something, Greg. It's quite interesting because I quite often talk about resilience. We've kind of lost our ability to suffer and endure a little bit. We don't like to. We don't. We like to make sure people are comfortable. So anytime that we have to suffer, and I say suffer in a loose term, it's all about perspective. It hits us harder when we're not prepared for it.
Yeah, and we want to make sure when we're talking about this, we're not talking about advocating for the abuse of children. They
No,
should
not at
be
all. No.
raised in a wonderful, loving environment. But the reality is, and I don't disagree with you, for lack of a better term, we've gotten a little soft.
Yeah, I'm talking about things like we want people to go the extra mile, maybe do a bit of overtime, maybe do something they've not been asked for but might be required on the job. Maybe they're a little bit tired, or maybe they've had to skip lunch because they've had to work through these things that in the military are quite normal, but actually in the civilian world, they're almost asking too much, and that starts to interfere with people. And actually, when we think about it, a lot of the successful organizations and people in this world have had to go through that. They've had to suffer, endure, have failure, have rejection to get to where they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you went from childhood into the military, and you're now one of the things you do is you're a keynote speaker, you run courses and events. There are all sorts of things. You're an actor. But let's talk about the speaking piece for a little bit. Again, a shameless plug. If you're looking for a phenomenal keynote speaker, Colin's the one. You absolutely want to bring him into your study club. But you, of course, talk about your history and describe some of the training and the missions that you've been on. But in your keynotes, in your programs, what lessons are you trying to impart here? In other words, what are some of the takeaways that
Yeah,
people could expect?
it's a really good question, Greg, because quite often people don't often join the dots between military special forces and maybe the world of dentistry or even business as a whole. Whereas one of the things I like to do is join those dots. People are people, stress is stress, leadership's leadership, teamwork's teamwork. And so what's your perspective? What is your perspective of what that should look like? Because we only know what we know. We don't know what we don't know. And so quite often, I'm a storyteller by trade. I like to talk about hostage rescues and, exciting stories. But essentially, it all comes back to people at the end of the day. And sometimes it's about, we have to pivot. We have to, that's the mission, that's the goal. But sometimes that changes. So what? Sometimes, the plans change from the minute we go through the door. Well, so what? How do we react to that? So a lot of the workshops I do is normally about different things: motivation, decision making, what matters. We value trust over ability. I'll just give it a second to let that land, because in the special forces world, we might always be thinking about ability, but actually trust is more important for us than ability, because we can train ability. We can't train trust. And so that's quite useful for not just us, but anybody in the workplace, because quite often we're tested not in a normal day-to-day environment, but those difficult days when everything's coming at us. And that's when it's more about trust. Can we leave people just to do their job on their own? Autonomy, or do we have to micromanage? Are we second guessing what they might have to do? And those become really important when we're in those moments of crisis or really challenging times.
Yeah. So trust over ability, some leadership stuff, motivation. Um, you also are doing, it's called Stoic Events, right? So you're running courses and events. Let's talk a little bit about that. And we'll get into what we're producing with you, for specifically for Seattle Study Club members. But give me the gamut on Stoic Events a little bit. I know there's a resiliency course, but what else is there? There are the workshops that you're doing. So give me the bigger picture. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think having come through COVID and stuff, one of the things that I always thought was important was that I had a diverse sort of portfolio of things that I worked on. Because if you only have one stream and that gets affected, then you've got all your eggs in one basket. So
Yep.
yeah, I had writing, I had the TV stuff, I had a bit of sort of management consultancy, surveillance training. But within a corporate sense, I had these sort of three key areas. So the speaking was one. You come in, you do a 45-minute talk, take a Q&A. The other one was workshops where we really dial into themes, whether it was resilience or teamwork or leadership. And then the third thing was the Stoic events, where people coming through COVID wanted these kind of events, getting people together and then having themes behind them, but also a fun social event. So we created Stoic events, and it's about a dozen core staff. We probably have about 24 all in, but about a dozen core staff, ex-vets, all with very different key skills, a lot of them ex-special forces. And we have an area in Scotland where they used to train up the old SOE, Special Operations Executive, before they kind of parachuted them into France during the war. So we use the same area, and we've got our own range, our own weapons, our own rockets, explosives, our own military vehicles. We've got access to helicopters, boats, and we send teams on spy missions. So you're not told what the mission is altogether. You're given a rough detail. You're given a cover story. Give us some basic training, your basic map reading, your first aid, bits and bobs, and then we send you out on spy missions, and that's you essentially.
Wait. First aid? So,
Yeah, so
so
you can look after each other. I mean, we've got
okay,
drones
so I'm
over
going to get hurt on
the
this.
top of you. I think the most you could get hurt was you maybe roll your ankle when you're walking across the hills. Don't worry,
Oh,
nobody's.
that would be me for sure.
Well, we're lucky. We have people hidden all over the place looking for you when you think there's nobody there, but we're
Oh,
watching, and we've
great.
also got drones above. But don't tell them, okay? Tell them they're on
No.
their own behind enemy lines. But no, we've got our medics there in case
Yeah,
I don't know.
I was teasing you.
We've got all our medics there in case somebody rolls an ankle or I don't know, bashes themselves with an oar while they're in the kayak or something. People can injure themselves in the most ridiculous ways.
Yes.
But no, and we'll have all these checkpoints. So some of them you might be abseiling down a bridge and you're doing some problem solving. Some of them it's an observation stand. You've got to spot as many things as you can. Some of them are memory games. Some of them are code breakers, puzzles you've got to break. You've got to break into briefcases. We might teach you how to pick locks. And then you get scored each of these checkpoints, and then essentially there's a mission at the end of it. And so you might be sprinting to the helicopter with your missing agent or your down pilot, and whoever gets to the helicopter first gets the helicopter back to the hotel. Everybody else has to jump in the Land Rovers. So it's those kind
Nice.
of weekends, but they're great fun. I would put them up against any team building event that you've ever done. Ask Gary, the CEO. He's taken his guys through it. Said he's the best event he's ever done from a team building sort of sense. So yeah, I love doing them. Our vets love doing them. They're friendly. They're fun, and you get a chance to shoot things and blow things up. It's great for anger management.
That's a key. So for our listeners because I had to ask, what is abseiling? It's rappelling, right? So
Repelling,
you're
yes.
rappelling down a cliff or down a wall or whatever it
Yes.
is. So let's talk about the event that we're putting together exclusively for Seattle Study Club members. My understanding is it's May 8 to 10. Is that correct?
Yeah, so those are the dates we've got, and that's a nice date because you're coming out of those Easter breaks, you're getting people back, and it's the weather's nice here in Scotland. It's a bit calmer. You might even see a bit of sun. So yeah, nice.
Good. And we've already got a number of folks lined up for this. But walk me through the schedule. What does that look like, right? So it's 8, 9, 10. Is it arrive on the 8th? Are we coming in on the 7th? And then what is the progression of the program?
So typically, what will happen is everyone will arrive over the course of the 8th. And because people are coming in from different places, you can arrive in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening, but nothing will happen until the evening. So we'll dish out kit and equipment, we'll give you an open brief, we'll give you a cover story. We might even teach you a skill on the first night. So last one we did on the first night, we taught people how to break locks. You might have to break into padlocks or 4-pin tumblers or lever locks. We'll teach you that skill. So right away on the first night, you've already learned a skill, which may or may not be useful depending on what you're doing. But
the way the world's going, it will be highly useful. So.
and they will need that skill for the weekend at some stage, you know. And everything that you do, you'll have to use over the course of the weekend. So that's the Friday night, and then it's nice. It's you have a nice meal, some wine. Everybody gets to know each other. You meet staff, and it's all quite friendly. And then Saturday morning, it all starts. So in your teams, you might be red team, blue team. You're dropped off. You've obviously got all your kit and equipment. You're dropped off behind enemy lines. You're told what the enemy look like. So people that are out looking for you. You're told what your agents, friendly forces look like. And you're just sent up what is a long railway line. And you don't know how long it goes for. And that's deliberate. We don't tell people how long they're out for, how much distance they've got to travel. It's all the unknown. Because a lot of the things about these events that we do now, Greg, is that people know what they're doing. They know how long they're out for. They know how long they've got to be. And so they can prepare mentally.
Yeah, whether it's a Spartan race or Tough Mudder or whatever they are, like we know what the obstacles are going to be. We know it's an 11-mile course, whatever it is. I get that.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things we like about the Stoic events is we don't tell people how long it is or how long you're out for. And that creates this element of the unknown, which on the first day is very unsettling because you don't know how long I'm out for. Like, when am I going to get fed? When does it end? And I think that element of unknown can be unsettling. But the more we get used to it, the more we accept it and we familiarize ourselves with it. And that's a very useful skill. It's one very small cog in that big resilience piece. We set them off. They will meet an agent at some stage. They will get given a grid to go and find the kayaks. They'll find the kayaks. They'll get in them. They'll go out to the hidden island in the middle of the lake. They'll uncover the codes and the puzzles that are there. Go back, stash the kayaks. They'll go another checkpoint. They'll have to abseil down a bridge, do some problem solving, code breakers, have to find their smoke grenade, whichever one's for that team, signal the speedboat. Speedboat will come and pick them up, take them across the other side of the lake. There'll be an observation stand, lots of things that they've got to do along the way. Then there'll be a scene that's being created. It's been a firefight. There's things lying about, briefcases, typewriters. There's lots of different codes and stuff that show you where you need to go and what the next part to your mission is. Then you go up to the range, and on the range, it's the first day. It's a familiarization setting, so it's to get you comfortable with all the different weapons and explosives. Now, the first day is a fun day, all right, and it's to get you familiarized with it. Our guys are great with civilians. Make sure you're comfortable. This is how you fire it. This is what it'll do. Blah blah blah. Let them have a play with it, so everybody's comfortable. But they've got to be paying attention because on the second day, you're going to be scored in your teams. So you might have to fire the pistol, you might have to fire the long-range sniper shot, you might have to blow up the box which contains the information. So you've got to know the people in your team that were good at certain weapons. And then you do that, and that leads to the next phase, which then leads to finding whatever might be the agent, the down pilot, and you've got to get them to the helicopter, and it's always a mad sprint for the end. So they're good fun, and over the course of the events, depending where people are come from, we'll do different things with them. So we always have like the whiskey distilleries come in and do little visits, tours, do the whiskies. We've got the golf days and stuff which normally take place. And of course, we've got David Stirling's memorial just up the road, and that can be quite poignant. We go up there, it's a nice big memorial on the top of a hill. We do a little speech. We'd hand out our awards for winning teams, winning individuals. People at the DS that are there have noticed, have stood out for whatever reason, dish out our special forces coins. And then it's back to the hotel for a nice dinner and some talks, a bit like the sort of talks that I do for a bit of interest for everybody before they head off home.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And one of the things I've heard is that the evenings include stories around a campfire, right? So whatever we're drinking, but we're sitting there with other veterans and hearing stories of things they've went through. I mean, to me, that's those lived experiences and getting to know people at that level. That connection is a significant draw, just to me personally.
Yeah, and it's one of the things everybody always talks about. No matter what they've done over the weekend, no matter how their team did, how they did as an individual, everybody always remembers the fireside chats, which are literally round a fire. So we have a big campfire, everybody's round there, and the guys will just be telling the stories, letting people ask them questions, conversation, and it's really open, it's really when people have been scared, when people have been out their depth, the missions they thought they wouldn't come back from, that sort of insider stuff that, people on the outside don't normally get to hear. Yeah. And we'll do more official ones as well. We'll have presentations, we'll have guys doing talks, and that's the bit a lot of the people remember from those things.
Remarkable. So questions would be around this event in particular. How great a shape do I need to be in? Do I have to be able to run a marathon? Where do I need to be on that fitness scale to not, go, why the hell am I here?
Yeah, well, we're not a company that pushes people physically. There's enough companies out there that can make you do press ups and run until you're sick. We're not one of those. For us, it's more about other things: cognitive, teamwork, resilience, problem solving, working together, people showing a bit of leadership. Those are the things we're looking for. So we've had everything from 15-year-old girls to 60-year-old obese men. And the checkpoints are designed that way so that you don't have to cover any big distance. You could probably get through the whole thing and not break into a jog. So I'm not putting people off that do want a physical element, because we've done it in the past. We've done it for CrossFit teams and stuff like that. But these generally aren't. They're for teamwork. They're for fun. They're for, can you navigate your way around a lake to a checkpoint and solve the problem? And if you can do it, how are you scored? And for each of those checkpoints, there's get outs. So quite often we'll get to an abseil. Someone will say, I'm not comfortable doing it. That's fine. Make your way around this way and you'll meet your team at the bottom. And there's always tasks that they can do. So they're always sort of doing something while the rest of the team are. So there's always get outs for people. People don't like the water. People don't like heights. People don't like fire. Some people might not like weapons, so we always have to cater for that, and we do. And so don't worry, there's no physical shape you need to be in.
That's good, because I am closer to the 60-year-old obese than I am the 15-year-old.
Me and you both.
That's crazy. So what about, so I want to come do that. I'm going to be there. So anybody that wants to join us, I will be there, and you get to laugh at me for 2.5 days. My wife wants to come but doesn't want to do it. I'm making this up. But so are there options for her? I know we'll do some stuff Seattle Study Club wise, but do you have anything built in for that? And no is an acceptable answer here. I'm actually asking this question genuinely. For the spouse or significant other, whether it's a husband or wife or whatever, that doesn't want to do the resiliency training but wants to come spend 3, 4, 5 days in Scotland with their significant other?
Yeah, absolutely. And what we normally find is we'll have we had one company for abroad that this is what they wanted to do, and actually it was a partner's thing. And so some of the partners wanted to do it and some didn't. And so what we had was we had two separate hotels, and the hotel across the road. So at one we had Crieff Hydro and we had the Alexandria Hotel across the road. And the Alexandria Hotel had both the DS in it, and it had all the couples that wanted to stay there. And then the people that were staying in that hotel were just given timings for when to meet at Crieff Hydro. Alternatively, we could just book the hotel out, double rooms, and the partners. The only thing I would say about that is if one member of that partnership is doing the event, you might not see much of them for the 2 days while they're doing the event,
Right.
because they're out on the ground for a lot of that time. However, a lot of people, especially coming from the States, might tag on a couple of days at the front or back end so they can go exploring, much as I did when I came to Texas on the tour. I just added on a couple of days at the front and back and brought my partner out.
Yeah, which is perfect. And that's what we're expecting. We'll set up some golf after and some golf before and some tours and those kinds of things as well. So I'm very excited about this. Any last words of wisdom or encouragement? Because I've got to commit to these dates personally.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we want, just like the TV show we had here in the UK, Who Dares Wins, I think it's across on Fox in the US right now, Special Forces Week. We always want people to end the event better, improved in some way than what they started, and that's always our aim. We don't want to break people. We don't want to shout. We don't shout at people. We don't make people do press ups until they're sick. We want people to finish having grown in some way, whether that's mentally, physically, problem solving, teamwork, experience, motivation, inspiration, whatever it is. We hope that they go away from that better. Now, resilience is in us all. Now, if you think back to when you were 6 months old, learning to walk, you probably fell over hundreds, maybe thousands of times. You didn't even know you could walk. But you weren't put off by getting bumping at the knee or the head. You weren't put off by failure or embarrassed. You kept going until eventually you got up and walked. Now that tells us that resilience is in all of us. And we have a lot of resilience. And depending on what we go through in life and experiences and circumstances, that resilience goes up or down. Now that should give us hope, because that means it's not finite. That means we can grow our resilience. We can be better tomorrow than we were today. That's all we're trying to get out of people over that weekend. And we don't do it. We give them the platform that allows them to do it. And I can put my hand on my heart and say that anybody that's ever done a Stoic event has improved in some way from what they started.
Wonderful. I can't add anything to that other than thank you. And I am truly excited to come out in May and spend some time with you. So cheers, my friend.
Look forward to it, Greg. Cheers.